The sky is burning red as rain starts pouring down, setting up that something terrible just went down on this battlefield. We cut to a fallen knight, arm limp in the mud, armor cracked and bloody while the rain keeps hammering down like the war still isn't done with them. In the middle of a mountain of corpses, the red-haired warrior is on their knees, clutching a body and screaming into the storm, like they just lost the last person they wanted to lose. The last survivor is just standing there in the rain, clutching his head like his mind finally snaps as he realizes he's the only one left alive in this slaughter. Around him, the field is covered with bodies, friends, enemies, everyone, like the whole army just got deleted in a single, brutal moment. Even the commanders and high-ranking elites are down, lying in the mud with fatal wounds, proving this wasn't a battle. It was a complete annihilation. He's standing there, drenched in blood and rain, breathing hard, realizing he somehow survived when he should have died with everyone else. He looks over the battlefield, taking in the sea of corpses, and it hits him that almost everyone he fought with is gone. He grits his teeth and curses, blaming himself for not being strong enough to change how this massacre ended. He suddenly snaps his head around, sensing that he's not alone. Someone survived this battlefield besides him. A creepy voice cuts through the rain, amused, admiring how a mere human managed to survive all this carnage. Realizing who it is, he glares straight ahead, rage boiling over, and spits out a furious "you bastard" at the monster responsible for everything. We finally see what he's facing, a massive winged giant, body like stone, towering over the battlefield while the human looks tiny, standing on its chest. The narration drops his name. This is the giant Ahiyuti, a so-called divine being with eyes glowing like he's looking down on insects. We get a flashback-style reveal. Ahiyuti descended on the Empire just 20 days ago, and ever since then, the sky's been filled with these winged monsters following behind him like an army of false angels. His underlings swarm the land like locusts, burning everything down while the narration says they destroyed the world for no clear reason, just pure chaos. We're told this monster wasn't just any enemy. He was the last of the three giants, the final disaster humanity had to face. Back in the present, our MC slams his foot down like he's made up his mind and is done being scared of this so-called god. He tells the giant straight up that because of him, half the entire empire turned into a graveyard, like he's listing his crimes before delivering the sentence. The giant tries to act unfazed, saying it's fine because he'll just be going back to his god soon, like death is just a trip home for him. The MC smirks coldly and says that's perfect because all the other monsters who died before him are already waiting on the other side. The giant is confused, like friends, and the MC casually reminds him he didn't come alone. There were two other giants with him. He says one of them got turned into giant barbecue thanks to a short-fused red dragon that absolutely roasted him. And the other one? Locked away forever by some ancient monster of a wizard named Lorhan, who slapped a permanent seal on him. The MC smiles in this unhinged way and basically tells them, "Do you get it now, you bastards?" Like he's flexing that he outplayed all three giants. The giant snaps back, telling him to stop lying, and explains that beings like them are all linked. They can feel what happens to each other. He says they know their fellow giants died taking their enemies down with them, meaning whoever killed those other two shouldn't be standing here either. The giant explains what he really means. Everyone on MC's level is already gone, and now he's just a lone survivor sitting in a world where all the other powerhouses have been erased. The MC laughs it off, saying he's clearly still breathing, so whatever prophecy the giant is preaching sounds like nonsense to him. But the giant shuts him down, staring him in the eye and saying he can feel it. MC's life force is fading, and his time is almost up. The giant admits he's actually relieved, saying if the MC stayed alive any longer, he'd become a massive problem for whatever plan the giants have been cooking up. The MC realizes this guy hasn't been talking about the battlefield at all. He's been hinting at some bigger wish or scheme behind everything from the start. He cuts him off, owns the fact that his life's been messed up from day one, then coldly tells the giant to shut his mouth and die already. Even while dying, the giant admits the MC is actually impressive, saying he's a rare human who has the right to feel proud. But then he drops but as the MC tightens his grip on the weapon, ready to finish this without hearing another word. The giant keeps talking anyway, saying that no matter how strong the MC is, in the end his entire world is still doomed. The giant finishes his ominous line, saying this world will be swallowed by starlight and erased, right as his head is being driven into the ground. The MC doesn't let him preach any longer and swings his weapon with everything he has, smashing straight through the giant's body. The giant's form twists and gets sucked into a swirling red vortex of light, like his existence is being completely wiped out from this world. The giant's body collapses for real this time, and the MC just turns his back on it, like he's done wasting even a second more on this so-called god. His eyes are empty and tired, blood still dripping from his mouth as the adrenaline fades, and the weight of everything finally crashes down on him. He looks over the ruined battlefield and thinks bitterly that no matter how hard he fought, what's already been destroyed can't be undone. There's nothing he can do to rewind any of it. He takes a step forward through the blood-mixed rain, like he's forcing himself to move even though his body's screaming to stop. He staggers, shoulders heavy, dragging in shaky breaths as the exhaustion and injuries finally start catching up to him. He looks straight ahead, panting, eyes glazed but still burning. Like he's searching for a reason he's the one still alive after all this. We jump back to the past. MC is sitting in the middle of a village circle, head down, while a bunch of rough-looking guys stand around him laughing like they're sizing up some newbie. One of them steps up in front of him, and MC looks up, a little startled, like he wasn't expecting to be called out directly. The man with the scar meets his gaze with a crooked smile, like he's about to drag MC into something crazy but important. Time skips a bit, and now they're all relaxed, joking around. MC's in the middle actually smiling, surrounded by these guys who basically became his squad and his family. Then it cuts to them later on, armored up and standing at the edge of the battlefield, staring at the chaos they're about to walk into like it's just another job they'll survive together. Reality hits. His friend is now on that same battlefield, bleeding out and staring at the destruction in shock, realizing this is the fight none of them were ever meant to come back from. Back in the present, he looks up through the rain, breathing hard, realizing this is the exact place where all those memories with his squad ended. He stands in front of the pile of bodies and talks to them like they're still alive, calling them idiots for all showing up and throwing their lives away here. He drops to one knee, voice shaking, asking what kind of pride made them fight to the last breath, and if they really thought they were untouchable just because he was leading them. He remembers his friend's last moments, joking bitterly that they should have just taken the hint and run instead of sticking around to die with him. MC stares at the corpse and questions why guys like them had to go up against giants that could shrug off even the Empire's strongest sword techniques. He blames himself, saying if not for his own messed up situation as a disciplinary soldier, they never would have been pushed to the front lines and ended up dying before anyone else. His eye trembles as it all piles up, guilt, anger, grief, like he's finally cracking under everything he's been holding in. He collapses onto his hands and knees in the mud, admitting to himself he doesn't even know what he was fighting for anymore or why he's the only one left. Then suddenly, something shifts, light flashes, and he snaps his head up, eyes wide, like the world itself just answered him with something impossible. He suddenly jerks his head to the side, shocked because he just heard a voice he absolutely recognizes, even though no one should be alive to speak to him right now. His eyes go wide and start to shake as he realizes who it sounds like, mumbling that it was like he's hearing someone who should be long dead. Right then, a streak of light slams into the ground in front of him, cutting through the rain like something or someone has just been dropped into his world from above. He looks up and sees a lone figure standing in the distance beyond the corpses, like someone's been watching this whole tragedy from the far end of the battlefield. His hand clamps around his weapon, shaking, not from fear but from the mix of rage and desperate hope that this might be the person he thinks it is. He stares ahead through the rain, blood running down his face, trying to confirm with his own eyes if the impossible is actually standing right in front of him. He finally closes the distance and realizes who that silhouette belongs to, the last person he ever expected to see standing after this battle. His expression flips from dead tired to almost relieved, and he grips his weapon like a walking stick as he says, half laughing, that they actually survived. His eyes light up with this desperate hope as he shouts out their title, Grand Commander, like he's just found a lifeline in the middle of the apocalypse. Rain drips from his torn sleeve as he freezes, realizing something's off about the person standing in front of him. The figure steps fully into view. It's Ade-shan, the Grand Commander, staring him down with this cold, unreadable expression that makes it feel less like a reunion and more like a judgment. The system pulls up her status, and it's actually wild. In Inner Lunatic, most grown dudes barely hit Stamina 4, but she's sitting at 6 like it's nothing. Basically, her body's built to keep moving long after everyone else taps out. Cut to the battlefield in that bloody storm, and he suddenly notices someone still moving down below. After everything that just happened, he realizes that stubborn figure is still hanging on, refusing to die. He walks up, beaten up but low-key impressed, gripping his weapon and grinning. He looks at her and just laughs like, "So you were still alive," genuinely shocked, but also hyped that she survived. The moment he realizes who it is, his whole expression changes, and he calls out to her in disbelief, shouting for the Grand Commander. Blood and rain drip off her torn uniform as she steadies herself, barely holding it together but still refusing to fall. He finally says her name, Ade-shan, and you can hear the mix of relief, shock, and guilt in his voice as he faces the woman who somehow survived this nightmare. The guy's barely holding himself together. Blood is running down his chin, but he's still standing like he refuses to fall. You can tell he's forcing himself to stay conscious, like something serious just went down and he can't afford to collapse yet. Ronan walks up on the wounded officer, calling them out for messing up despite being the one in charge. The officer fires back, reminding him he's not exactly top rank either. Both of them are exhausted, injured, and still throwing shade while the rain keeps pouring. The injured officer finally focuses on what really matters. She pulls herself together, just enough to ask the one thing that's been nagging at her, whether Ahiyuti made it or not. You can hear the tension in her voice when she drops that last word, asking if he's dead. Ronan doesn't sugarcoat anything. He straight up says he killed Ahiyuti and points out the bodies nearby. The officer freezes for a second, trying to process the weight of that. Ronan's expression shifts. He's still bleeding, still drenched, but he takes the news without flinching. It's more like he's confirming what he already suspected. She exhales the truth out loud, almost like saying it makes it real. Ahiyuti is gone, and the rain just keeps falling as the reality hits both of them. She turns to him with a calm, tired look and thanks him. It's not dramatic, just genuine. She knows what he did wasn't easy. Ronan doesn't answer right away. He just stares back through the rain, like he's trying to decide if he should accept the gratitude or brush it off. Then he snaps out of it and raises a finger, shifting the mood. If she's really that grateful, he wants her to hear him out. He's got a request, and it's clear it's something he's been waiting to bring up. Ronan explains what he wants. It's about the disciplinary soldiers. Normally, they'd just be tossed aside or burned, but he asks her to treat them properly this time. You can tell he isn't joking around. This matters to him. She looks at him, confused and tired, and points out that he's actually in better shape than she is. From her view, he's the one who should be handling it if he cares that much. Ronan tries to play it off, but his body gives out instantly. He doubles over, coughing hard, and she's caught off guard by how fast he collapses. That "you're more alive than me" comment doesn't hold up for even a second. Ronan lifts his hand, and it's covered in blood. He's basically proving her wrong on the spot, telling her there's no way he's the more alive one here. He forces out a tired grin and admits he could drop dead any moment. He's not exaggerating. He's barely staying upright. He leans back and talks like someone who already accepted it. Says he messed around too much during his time here, never really did anything meaningful, and now it feels unfair that this is how he goes out. She can't even respond. She just sits there, taking in how real his situation is getting. She asks him straight up if there's anything he wants to do if he somehow makes it out alive. Ronin doesn't even hesitate. He says he's got a whole list of things he wishes he could experience. But then he pauses, pushes himself up a little, and admits there's only one thing on his mind right now. He looks at her and wonders out loud what it would be like to attend the academy. That one simple thought hits her harder than she expected, because it shows he never even had the chance to dream about something that normal. Ronin remembers something the giant enemy said before dying. It's been stuck in his head, and you can tell it's tied to something deeper. The scene shifts to a soft memory. A glimpse of a girl with silver hair standing in warm light, someone important to him. He opens up about her. His sister's last wish was for him to attend the academy. That's why the thought lingers. It isn't just a dream. It's a promise he never got to keep. The boy kneels on the ground, bloody and exhausted, but he's smiling. Even in that state, he clings to one thing in his head. After all this, he'll finally see his family again. The scene widens. It's raining. He faces a badly injured girl slumped against a tree, her legs drenched in blood. He talks about the search party eventually finding them, but she just calls herself a lost cause and questions why he still bothers. Close up on his eye, his gaze sharpens, irritation and pain mixing together. He's clearly fed up with her giving up on herself and throwing out hopeless, useless words. The sky rumbles again. That heavy, unsettling sound rolls through the battlefield like something big is shifting. A sudden flare of light drops into the ground, splashing against the muddy water. It's bright, sharp, completely out of place. Both of them snap their heads up instantly. Their eyes widen at the same time. Whatever just appeared wasn't normal, and it hits them with the same shock. They both look around, stunned. The rain that's been pouring nonstop just cuts off like someone flipped a switch. The air goes quiet, and neither of them knows what that means. Ronin plants his hand on the ground to steady himself, but the earth starts trembling under him. The whole place jerks violently, lifting dust and shaking the ground. Ronin and the commander grab for balance as the shockwave hits, completely caught off guard by whatever is about to emerge. Ronin snaps his head up, completely stunned. Whatever's happening is way beyond anything he expected. His eyes lock onto the blinding light ahead. You can see the moment his brain registers the shape forming inside it. Then it appears, a massive, radiant figure descending with 8 wings stretched wide. Ronin's voice cracks in disbelief as he realizes exactly what he's looking at. More of those winged beings descend, and one of them stands front and center with a calm, almost royal presence. Their masks, their posture, everything about them feels otherworldly. Then the sky fills with them. Dozens of these angelic figures glide down in formation, wings glowing, the whole place turning blindingly bright. Ronin can't hold back his reaction. He blurts out exactly what anyone would think in this moment. There aren't just 1 or 2 of these things. There's an army of them, and they're all staring down at him. Ronin stands up despite his injuries, staring at the sky like he can't believe what he's seeing. He yells out in frustration, demanding to know where all these things even came from. The commander goes pale. She realizes the giants they fought weren't the finale. This is something bigger, something none of them were prepared for. Her voice drops to a whisper as it hits her. This isn't just another attack. This is the 3rd wave, and it's happening right in front of them. Her eyes lock onto the sky in pure terror. She's frozen, completely overwhelmed by the reality of this 3rd wave hitting them. Ronin notices instantly and shouts for her, trying to snap her out of it. She's shaking, barely able to breathe as the panic kicks in. Ronin starts yelling instructions through the chaos. He wants her to pull herself together, use whatever authority or abilities she has to get him airborne. He's desperate because he knows he can't reach those things with his sword from down here. She finally snaps out of her panic and stares at him, confused and scared. She can't believe he's actually planning to charge at those monsters. She asks if he isn't going to kill them. Ronin stands up with zero hesitation, sword in hand. She's stunned that he's choosing to fight when the odds are basically impossible. He fires back, asking if she'd rather sit there and wait to die. Ronin raises his weapon, eyes locked on the sky. Even bleeding and barely standing, he steels himself. He says he'll fight, even if it costs him his life. Ronin swings his blade with everything he has, shouting that he's not letting those things walk all over them. Even on the brink of death, he refuses to back down. She watches him, stunned. In a moment where any normal person would freeze or give up, he's still pushing forward. It shakes her more than the monsters do. Ronin grits his teeth and keeps going. He knows exactly what kind of person he is, and it's that stubbornness that kept him alive this long. Now that man is standing alone in front of the descending angels, and everyone's thought is the same. If it's him taking the lead, they might actually survive this. Off to the side, another ally watches in silence, beaten and bruised, realizing everything from here on depends on what that man does next. Someone grabs Ronin's shoulder and calls out to him, snapping him out of his thoughts as he whirls around, still rattled and covered in blood. The long-haired ally brushes past him, not even fully turning back, tossing out that they're busy and basically telling him to quit bothering them. Ronin's eye widens, a drop of sweat sliding down as he realizes they're completely serious and about to pull something insane. Before Ronin can react, the long-haired ally suddenly grabs him and pulls him in, crashing their lips together and completely short-circuiting his brain. They stay locked like that in front of the burning sky and descending angels, while Ronin just stands there stunned, thinking, what is even happening right now? Then the real reason shows itself. A glowing blue energy, marked with runes, slips out from their mouth and gets forced straight into Ronin's, transferring that power to him. Ronin jerks back, coughing on that energy, freaking out, and demanding to know what they just shoved into his mouth. Instead of answering out loud, they lean in close, lips near his ear, quietly explaining the skill and what it's going to do to his body. Ronin's eyes go wild as it sinks in, realizing this isn't just a buff, but basically a suicide-level handoff, and he panics, trying to stop whatever they're planning next. Ronin snaps, yelling at them, demanding how they can say something like that when they're literally in the middle of a life-or-death fight. They look up at him and calmly call his name, and the way they say it makes him freeze, realizing this isn't just battle talk anymore. With a soft, almost relieved smile, they start glowing like their body is already being pulled away, and half joke that if they ever meet again, he should stop them from doing dumb heroic stuff and make them live a quiet life instead. Ronin just stands there under the swarm of angels, mind blank, thinking about everything he's done up to this point and realizing this moment tops all of it. That last image of them flashes in his head, bloody, smiling like an idiot, casually saying that out of all the crazy stuff they've pulled, this one was on a different level. Ronin's eye trembles, the weight of that memory crashing down on him, and you can see it hit that this loss is going to stick with him for the rest of his life. Up above, the angel gathers a massive ball of divine energy, wings wrapping around it as that attack charges to wipe everything out. Ronin and his comrades stare straight into the blinding light as it drops on them, the whole battlefield getting swallowed by that one strike. The impact slams down, exploding in a storm of blue and white energy, completely engulfing the angel's body and the ground below in a single overwhelming blast. Ronin's eyes snap open with a gasp, like he just jolted awake from getting hit by that divine nuke. Instead of flames and angels, he's staring up at a calm blue sky, stunned, trying to figure out where the hell he is now. He pushes himself up from the grass as someone sprints over, yelling Grand Commander, like Ronin's suddenly back in a completely different place and time. Ronin staggers to his feet, still hearing that shout of Grand Commander echoing in his ears as he turns toward the voice. His gaze follows the sound across a peaceful stretch of land, fences and fields stretching out under a soft breeze instead of a ruined battlefield. Off in the distance, he sees a quiet village by the river, perfectly intact, and he chokes out that it's impossible because this place shouldn't exist like this anymore. He spots kids messing around by the river on a handmade raft, and his chest tightens as he realizes this scene is straight out of his past. To make sure he's not hallucinating, he drops a hand to the ground, gripping the grass, and feeling how real and warm everything is. A young guy in simple village clothes leans over, catching his breath as he looks at Ronin, like he can't believe the Grand Commander just collapsed out here. Ronin sits up fully and finally says it out loud, recognizing the scenery and realizing he's back in his hometown, Nimbutan, exactly how it was before everything went to hell. A system-like prompt pops up in his head, confirming his suspicion and marking this moment as day one of his regression, proving he really has been thrown back into the past. He's sitting alone under the tree, letting out a tired sigh, trying to calm his head after everything that just happened. He suddenly remembers the Grand Commander's warning, grabs his face like he can't believe it, and realizes those words weren't just talk. They're actually coming true. His mind snaps to that crazy moment in the past, the sky burning, chaos all around, and that girl suddenly crashing in his arms, way too close, leaving him stunned and unable to process what's going on as he stammers in shock. While he's frozen, she suddenly leans in and jams a glowing orb into his mouth, forcing him to swallow it even though she's bleeding out. He coughs and freaks out, demanding what she just put in him, and she drops it on him straight. He's just swallowed an orb that can rewind time. She stands there, battered but resolute, and explains that this orb lets its user go back a limited number of times, showing how she's already lived through multiple timelines and is now handing those remaining chances and that responsibility over to him. She looks at him with those tired eyes and basically says, "I've used up my chances, so I'm passing everything I have to you." She tells him that what she's given him is the power to actually kill those giants, making it clear he's now the one who has to finish the fight. Barely standing, she leans in close to his ear, about to whisper her last warning or secret before everything falls apart. We cut back to that moment in the past where he was all beaten up in the rain, blurting out that he also wants to fight, then immediately panicking and insisting he was just talking big. She tells him if he really wants to grow stronger, he should head to Phil Leon Academy, a place packed with elites where he can actually learn how to use that power properly. Back in the present, she adds one more thing, calling him Corporal Ronin. And you can see it hits him. This isn't just a random choice. She's been trusting and watching him for a long time. With her last bit of strength, she looks at him through bloodshot eyes and says that if they ever meet again in another timeline, she wants him to remember this moment. We jump to a softer memory of her smiling in a simple dress, joking that if he does go back, he should tell her younger self to stop chasing danger and just live a peaceful life as a tailor. Back under the glowing sky, full of angels and chaos, he stares upward, thinking about everything he's done and how many lives, choices, and regrets are now riding on this one last chance. He grabs his head and curses under his breath, fully realizing this isn't some hallucination. He's actually been thrown back. Sitting under the same old tree, he starts yelling in his head, begging to wake up if this is a dream, while the villagers nearby stare at him like he's some weirdo talking to himself. He looks around at the familiar town, panicking as it hits him that he really has returned to the past, and now he has to figure out how to change the future alone, with no commander or comrades to lean on. He peeks out from behind the tree, eyes wide, finally accepting it. Yeah, this really is the past. He clenches a stick in his hand, like he's made up his mind to test something instead of just freaking out. He steps back up to the tree with that stick, getting ready to leave his first mark in this rewound timeline and see how real this second chance actually is. He takes a determined step forward, thinking that maybe, just maybe, this really is his shot to redo everything. He rushes into the bustling town street, weaving through the crowd as the noise and life of the past surround him again. Grinning with a mix of nerves and excitement, stick slung over his shoulder, he tells himself that if he really has gone back, then just a bit further ahead is the proof and the person he's desperate to see. As he's hurrying along, his eyes suddenly widen. Something feels off, and he snaps his head toward the commotion. He spots a group of delinquents messing around near a tree and instantly recognizes them, annoyed that these idiots are still up to the same nonsense, even in this timeline. When he gets a clearer view, he sees they've got some kids strung up upside down like it's a joke, and he's furious, wondering what kind of trash thinks bullying a child is entertainment. He walks toward them with a tired sigh, thinking how ridiculous it is that even after rewinding time, those idiots are still doing the exact same crap. As he gets closer, he suddenly freezes, realizing something's off about how the kid is hanging there. Then it clicks. There's no rope at all. The kid's literally stuck to the tree upside down, held there purely by magic, and that shocks him way more than the bullying itself. He stares in disbelief, muttering that there's no way someone like that would show up in some random countryside town like this. Then he remembers, around this exact time, something unusual was supposed to happen here. Right on cue, a red-haired kid surrounded by glowing magic symbols appears, calmly standing there like it's nothing, and he realizes this is the someone he'd completely forgotten about. The red-haired kid starts panicking, watching the scene and thinking that if this keeps going, something seriously bad is going to happen to that poor kid. We see it from the bullied kid's view. He's shaking, looking down at the smug delinquent, begging them to stop. Still stuck upside down by magic, he desperately yells that he doesn't have any money at all, but they just keep tormenting him anyway. Hanging there, the kid tries to explain that he can't pay because all his money went to his mom's medicine this month. The blonde thug just smirks and says he doesn't care at all. He's already shaking him down, so why should his mom's health matter to him? Annoyed that the kid keeps talking back, the blonde raises his hand, ready to smack him while he's still helpless and upside down. The kid's head slams against the tree as the thug starts beating on him, yelling like it's somehow the victim's fault. The lackeys in the back just laugh, totally entertained, while one of them casually toys with the kid's coin pouch like it's already theirs. That's when the red-haired kid snaps and shouts, "Hey!" stepping in with magic swirling around their hands, finally calling the bullies out. The blonde thug completely twists things, calling the victim the problem, and orders the red-haired kid to haul him all the way to the top of the tree with magic. The red-haired kid panics, saying they can't do that because if their spell slips, the kid could fall and get seriously hurt, but the thug just mocks them for being scared. With a nasty expression, the blonde thug shuts them down, coldly telling Acel to stop talking and just lift the kid higher anyway. He threatens Acel, saying if they don't obey, they'll be hanging right next to the victim, and Acel just freezes, trapped by fear. Acel's eyes go wide as they realize things have spiraled way beyond what they ever intended. We see a memory of Acel in front of a crowd, nervously using magic, admitting they only ever wanted to prove they were good at something too, not become part of this disgusting bullying. Acel's hands shake with magic still gathered, and they think they have to speak up now and tell him they can't go through with this. But the fear hits hard, and Acel admits to themselves that they're absolutely terrified. Even while their voice cracks and they hesitate, Acel bites down on the panic and forces the thought out. They still have to say something and refuse. Acel stands behind them, voice shaking as they quietly beg for this to stop. They finally step forward with magic flaring in their hand, shouting for them to stop before someone really gets hurt. Right then, Ronan rushes in and cracks Acel on the back with his stick to cancel the spell, yelling at the blonde thug that if this keeps up, he's going to kill the kid. As Acel's spell gets cut off, the magic symbols vanish and the kid's feet lose their grip on the tree. He drops straight to the ground with a thud, groaning while the bullies stare, caught off guard that someone actually interfered. The blonde thug snaps, shouting in rage at Ronan, demanding to know what the hell he thinks he's doing. The blonde thug gets in Acel's face, raging that they actually stopped the spell just because Ronan told them to, accusing Acel of treating this like a joke while Acel stammers that it wasn't on purpose. Before Acel can crumble completely, Ronan steps in, tells him to stop worrying about garbage like that guy, and pulls their attention away. He casually slings his stick over his shoulder and tells Acel to come talk with him instead, leaving Acel shocked that Ronan not only remembered them, but is openly taking their side. Ronan glances back at the blonde thug like he's already an afterthought, and thinks to himself that now he's got a real reason to talk with Acel. He faces Acel and straight up asks where they learned that telekinesis magic, and Acel nervously explains they picked it up from some random grimoire they bought off a traveling peddler. Ronan is low-key impressed, thinking this kid is already this skilled with just a cheap book, while the blonde thug fumes in the background, completely ignored. Ronin looks a cell over from head to toe, genuinely impressed, thinking this is insane talent, and that he just needs to watch a bit more to be sure. He suddenly hears the scrape of metal leaving a sheath and turns his head, recognizing that sound all too well. The blonde thug has completely lost it, drawing a real sword with murder in his eyes, furious that Ronin dared ignore him and ready to escalate this way past a simple street scuffle. The blonde thug's eyes go dead serious, filled with pure rage as he locks onto Ronin like he's already decided to cut him down. He charges in recklessly with the sword raised high. Sprinting straight at Ronin in front of everyone like this is an execution, not a fight. Ronin doesn't even flinch. He calmly watches the blade swing past his face, noting it's an actual long sword and wondering where a small-time punk like this even managed to get real steel. The thug lunges and grinning like he's got this, and Ronin calmly analyzes him, thinking his stance is trash, but his raw strength is probably enough to scare people around here. Then Ronin casually steps out of the sword's path, like he's just taking a stroll, already knowing that kind of sloppy swing is never going to touch him. The thug's eyes go wide as it hits him. Ronin dodged that full-speed strike like it was nothing, and now he realizes he's picked a fight way out of his league. Ronin thinks to himself that even though his body's younger now, one thing hasn't changed: the instincts drilled into him back when he was a frontline soldier. We see the shadow of his older, battle-hardened self looming behind him, showing that his combat intuition, his battle sense, is still razor-sharp in this timeline. The thug laughs it off and says Ronin's lucky, claiming he was about to cripple him for life, but Ronin just smiles and agrees that yeah, he really is lucky today. For once, his lifetime of bad luck finally flipped in his favor. The thug points his sword at Ronin and starts posturing, telling him to get on his knees and beg for his life like he's the one in control here. Ronin looks completely bored, casually brushing his neck while the sword tip is right in front of him, and says that sure, the guy can let him go, but he'll be walking away minus one arm. Then Ronin's tone turns ice cold as he adds that if he ends up killing him instead, he'll make sure to take good care of the thug's sister, twisting the threat right back at him. The thug laughs like it's nothing and admits that yeah, every time he sees Ronin's sister, he has disgusting thoughts about her, bragging about it right to his face. Before he can even finish that sentence, Ronin's temper snaps. His eyes go feral, killing intent explodes, and he lunges forward faster than anyone there can react. A brutal strike lands in an instant, and the next thing we see is blood and chunks hitting the ground, showing just how far Ronin is willing to go the moment someone crosses that line. For a second, he just stands there blankly, not even realizing Ronin's already sliced his ear clean off. His sword slips from his hand and slams into the ground as the shock finally catches up. Then the pain hits all at once, and he breaks down screaming, clutching the side of his head, and completely losing whatever bravado he had a moment ago. He grabs the side of his head and shrieks that his ear is gone, while his lackeys freeze up, realizing this isn't some harmless bullying anymore. Ronin slowly steps toward him and calls out, "Hey," making it clear this conversation isn't over just because the guy started crying. Ronin looms over him while he's on the ground, voice low and cold as he spits out that this is exactly what a filthy punk like him deserves. His eyes burn with pure rage as he snarls down at him, barely holding himself back from going even further after everything that was just said about his sister. The bullies freeze up as they see their buddy on his knees, screaming, clutching his head, while the MC just stands there holding the stick like he's the only one in control now. The front guy freaks out, stammering that this makes no sense, and then blurts out that the MC actually cut the dude's ear off, making the whole group realize they picked the wrong target. We switch to the bloodied stick, and they're all mentally replaying it, shocked that he managed to pull something that brutal off using nothing but that simple wooden club. MC turns to the rest of the gang and calls them out, mocking them and asking if they're having fun watching their friend get wrecked. He casually grinds his foot into the injured guy and warns the others to drag their buddy out of here if they don't want their bodies ending up in the same state. Then he ups the threat, telling them to drop all the money they stole and pay extra for pissing him off, and the blonde guy, shaking and holding his head, hurriedly agrees. The bullies are completely broken now, stuttering that they'll give everything back just to get out of there alive. A little later, the freckled kid is handed a heavy bag of coins and his eyes go wide, because this is way more money than he ever expected to see again. He blurts out that this is way more than what they stole, asking if MC is really giving it all to him, and MC just shrugs it off, saying it's fine and that he only needs a little for himself. The kid hugs the money to his chest, tearing up as MC casually tells him not to worry. Those guys won't even have the guts to show their faces anymore. MC tries to brush it off, saying it's no big deal and telling him to just head home and relax. But before he can finish, the red-haired girl suddenly steps forward, nervous and shaking, calling out to him and making him pause like, "Oh, what now?" She's shaking, barely able to get the words out as she starts stuttering an apology, completely choked up with guilt. She finally forces herself to bow her head and apologize properly, while MC and the kid just watch her, surprised that she's actually owning up to it. Meanwhile, the blonde thug is somewhere else, realizing too late that he messed with the wrong person and thinking he should never have started this in the first place. She admits she shouldn't have gone along with it, saying that even if Hans threatened her, that doesn't excuse what she did. She breaks down more, explaining she was so terrified that she just kept doing what they said and couldn't pull herself out of it. Facing them properly, she says it's all her fault and apologizes over and over, while MC and the kid just stand there silently, taking in how genuine she sounds. Estelle gives a small, tired smile and says that she was crying the exact same way earlier. He reminds her that she looked just like this when Hans first dragged her into this mess. He looks at her seriously and says that when he first saw her back then, one thought kept running through his head. He tells her that what hit him was how she was stuck in the exact same situation as him, and she finally lets out a soft, relieved smile. He gently rests his hand on her shoulder and tells her not to tear herself apart over this anymore. Then he gives her a bright, honest smile and says straight up that it's not her fault. He adds that even so, he really does appreciate her having the guts to apologize. After that, he hugs the money close and jogs off back toward the village, finally free from all that stress. Left behind, MC stands there while the red-haired girl gives a small, awkward wave, like she's still not sure how to act around him now. MC watches her quietly, thinking it over instead of just brushing her off. She stands there fidgeting, looking way softer and more nervous now that everything's over. He lets out a small smile and admits to himself that she's actually not that bad after all. MC suddenly brings up what he said earlier about having business with her, and she panics on the spot, flustered and stammering that she remembers. He just says good and walks past her, telling her they'll meet again in this same spot in 4 days, leaving her completely confused by that random deadline. She calls after him asking what he even means, but he's already heading back toward town, casually saying he's busy for now, so they'll talk then, once the moon's up in the night sky. In her head, she suddenly remembers how he threatened her before, casually brandishing his weapon and warning that she knows exactly what'll happen if she dares not show up. Snapping back to reality, he starts walking away, tossing over his shoulder that he's off now, and she's basically dead if she comes late. She's left standing there stunned, hand half raised, trying to process what just happened and whispering to herself in disbelief, wondering what he's dragging her into. Later, we cut to MC walking up a quiet forest path to a small house, like he's finally heading back to his own place after all the chaos. He stops at the door, his shadow stretching across it as he hesitates for a second, clearly thinking about something. In his mind, he's wondering if showing up with a bouquet of flowers would be way over the top or not, already overthinking how this business with her is going to start. He admits he just remembered she liked flowers, so he panicked and grabbed whatever looked decent, now standing there with his heart racing and a random bouquet in his hands. Right after that, he freaks out at his own idea, decides this is way too cringe, and starts rushing away from the house, ready to chuck the flowers into the woods. Before he can escape, the door opens behind him and someone steps out, saying they were wondering who was hanging around outside. He freezes when he hears a familiar voice call his name, turning around to see her surprised that it's actually him standing there. Those words, "You're back," hit him hard, and his eyes tighten as everything he's been running from starts bubbling up. We jump to a memory of him drenched in rain and blood, thinking about this moment over and over again, imagining what it would be like to finally come back here alive. He compares who he is now with who he used to be, thinking that all those heavy thoughts belong to Ronin, the disciplinary soldier, not this version of himself standing here. The woman at the door beams at him, all warmth and sunshine, saying the only thing that comes to her mind right now, that he's home earlier than usual. Her simple greeting hits harder than any battlefield memory, and he just stares, stunned, as the reality of being back home genuinely starts to sink in. He lowers his head a little, clutching the flowers, and quietly says the words he never got to say in his past life, telling her he's back. Inside, she's so moved she can barely handle it, thinking she never imagined a day would come where this kind of soft moment was even possible. Hugging the bouquet to her chest, she blushes and laughs that she never thought she'd receive flowers from her usually cold little brother, Ronin, and we're told her name is Iral, his older sister. She's over the moon, spinning with the bouquet and squealing about how happy she is, while Ronin awkwardly coughs into his hand and mutters that he's just glad she likes them. After stuffing him with food, she leans over and fusses, calling him her cute little brother and asking if he wants more stew. But he quickly waves his hands, saying he's good. She's already given him more than enough. Then she suddenly switches gears and asks how old he is this year. And when he looks confused, she casually answers that she's 22 and asks why he's asking all of a sudden. He plays it off, saying he just randomly forgot her age, and she freaks out, yelling that that's not the kind of thing you just forget. While she circles him worriedly, asking if his head hurts or if he hit it somewhere, he's quietly doing the math in his head. If she's 22 right now, then that means the timeline is earlier than he thought. His thoughts jump straight to that monstrous angel-like being, and he calculates that there's roughly 10 years left before those things invade and the world goes to hell again. She presses her hand to his forehead, checking his temperature like he's a little kid again while he just watches her quietly. She mutters that he doesn't seem to have a fever, completely worried, and he thinks to himself that she's exactly the same as he remembers from his past life. As she leans in closer, asking if he's really okay, he can only think about how she's still this gentle, overly kind sister who has no idea what's coming. Sitting there with her fussing over him and the table full of food, he admits she makes him selfishly wish this peaceful moment could just stay like this forever. But he knows in about 10 years everything is going to burn, and if he wants to protect this world and his sister, he has to start moving now. So he steels himself. He looks her straight in the eyes and says he's got something important to tell her, catching her off guard as she leans in, confused and asking what he means. He finally drops it on her, saying he's been thinking about enrolling in the academy, trying to sound casual even though it's a huge decision. She freezes for a second, eyes wide, repeating, the academy? Like she has to double-check she heard that right from her usually unmotivated little brother. Then it hits her, and she explodes with excitement, stars in her eyes as she shouts in disbelief, hyped that her brother actually wants to chase something big. She grabs his hands and shakes them like crazy, demanding he say it again and confirm he's serious. And he just answers yes, a little embarrassed, while she complains that he always ignored her whenever she suggested it before. Suddenly, she spins around, yelling that she doesn't have time to stand around freaking out, and dashes off, leaving him sitting there confused. Next thing he knows, she's tearing the room apart, getting things ready, shouting that she always knew this day would come, and hyping him up, saying he's smart enough to succeed at anything, while he just sits on the bed and quietly thanks her. She suddenly drops this massive pot in front of him, making the whole floor shake, and he just stares like, what is this now? She yanks the lid open with a grin and tells him it's a surprise gift just for him, dragging his face over so he has to look inside. Inside is a mountain of coins, and he's stunned, asking how there's that much money, while she proudly says she's been secretly saving it up all this time just so she could use it to support him one day. She explains she saved it so that if he ever changed his mind about the academy, she could pay for it on the spot, and he looks down, calling her amazing and asking when she even managed to gather all this. Then he straightens up and says he's grateful, But he wants her to keep that money for herself because for what he's aiming for, that amount isn't going to cut it anyway. She insists it's more than it looks and starts saying she doesn't even know which academy he's targeting, and he calmly answers that his goal is the Imperial School, Phil Leon Academy. She freezes with her hands on her hips, smiles stiffly, and just lets out a confused, huh, like she's not sure she heard that right. A second later, the whole house practically shakes with her scream as she yells, "What?" Because of all the places he could have picked, he chose the most elite academy in the entire empire. In the center of the empire stands Philicon Academy, the #1 elite school where all the nobles and geniuses gather. With brilliant professors and insane funding from the imperial family, this place basically forges students into top-class talents with the best education you can get. It's famous enough to be called a hero factory, and legends like Grand Commander Adeshan walk out of here. So the academy's status in the empire is on a completely different level. But this school doesn't just pump out heroes. Some of the most terrifying monsters in the empire, like the Winter Witch and other top-tier criminals, also walked out of these halls. On the battlefield, Adeshan saw that power firsthand. The graduates from Philicon were so useful in the war that she completely understood why this academy is treated like a big deal. Cut to our main guy, hiking through the forest with a backpack, heading toward that same academy, already thinking about how brutal the entrance standards of tuition are and how its fame might be more trouble than it's worth. As he walks, he remembers the woman back home. Instead of freaking out about the tuition, she just smiled and told him that if it's for his future, they'll somehow manage the money. That reaction is still stuck in his head. He takes another step forward on the road, and that memory turns into fuel rather than doubt. His eyes sharpen with resolve. If she believes in him that much, then he's going to prove it was worth it and show her real results at this academy. On the forest path, our guy stops in front of someone waiting by a tree, surprised that she actually showed up. It's the shy red-haired girl, flustered as she corrects him for getting her name wrong while trying to introduce herself properly. She reminds him he basically pressured her into coming along, and he laughs it off, telling her to just forget that part as they prepare to travel together. He drops his bag on the ground and tells her they're going to have a busy night, hinting that there's something he wants to test her on, which immediately makes her nervous. Estelle panics and asks what he's suddenly talking about, but he casually waves it off like it's not a big deal. Then he gives her a confident thumbs up and tells her straight. He wants her to use her telekinesis on him. He grins, eyes lighting up with excitement, and tells her to lift him as high as she possibly can using her power. Estelle freaks out, sweating as she repeats his words, shocked he wants her to use telekinesis on him out of nowhere. She backs away, arguing that it sounds way too dangerous, but he stays calm, says it's fine, and tells her to stop overthinking and just follow his instructions. He reassures her that he's not going to die from this, and after hesitating and whining a bit, Estelle finally agrees to try. She takes a breath, raises her hands, and blue psychic energy starts swirling around her fingers as she begins activating her power. She unleashes her spell, and a massive invisible force erupts outward, rocketing him into the air as her telekinesis surges at full power. He suddenly stops midair, eyes wide, realizing the telekinetic force is actually holding him up way more smoothly than he expected. He looks down at his feet hovering off the ground, testing his balance, and casually notes that her control is way better than before. As he keeps rising higher, he's low-key impressed, realizing Estelle's telekinesis is way stronger and more stable than he thought. As he's floating there, he compares the sensation to something from his past, remembering how this kind of telekinetic support once kept him airborne in a much harsher fight against a terrifying winged monster. We cut back to that battlefield, where allied mages were pouring out telekinetic power, helping him stay on equal footing against that powerful enemy. In that memory, he charges in with his sword, body wrapped in psychic force, realizing the thing that let him clash head-on with that monster was telekinesis. Back in the present, he's floating there with a small smile, thinking about how telekinesis is insanely rare, even among mages. Looking at Estelle pouring everything into her spell, he realizes she's not just some shy tag-along anymore. she's going to be the key support he needs for his eventual rematch against Ahiyuti. He smirks, already seeing this as the real beginning of their plan and of the fight that's waiting for him in the future. Meanwhile, Estelle is shaking, face red and sweating, trying to keep the spell going while she begs Ronan to hurry up because it's starting to really strain her. Ronan's still floating calmly, telling her to hang on a bit longer since there's one more thing he wants to test before he comes down. Then he tells her she doesn't need to lower him at all. He'll come down on his own, which completely confuses her because she has no idea what he means by that. Ronan grabs his sword midair, tightening his grip like he's about to jump off an invisible platform. He suddenly dives, using the force of the telekinesis like a ramp, shooting down toward the ground in a controlled, high-speed drop instead of just falling. Estelle feels the feedback rush through her spell and freaks out, stunned that he can move like that while still inside her telekinetic field. Ronan lands hard beside her, and in that instant the telekinetic force just vanishes, making Estelle realize he literally sliced through her mana connection on the way down. She stares at him in shock, demanding to know what he just did, but he plays it off like it's nothing special, saying it's just some acrobatic move he's been doing for a while. When she protests that she's never seen anyone cut mana before, he chops her lightly on the head to shut her up and tells her to drop it, since even he doesn't fully understand why he can do that. Ronan quietly sheaths his sword, thinking that figuring out this weird mana-cutting ability is basically homework he still owes someone. He remembers the fight with Ahiyuti, realizing this mysterious trait might be the exact reason his blade was able to injure that monster in the first place. But he decides there's no need to rush it. He can analyze it later. For now, he focuses on the present, getting ready to move on with Estelle as their journey toward the academy continues. Ronan grabs the luggage again and casually tells Estelle she passed his test, confirming that her telekinesis is good enough for what he has in mind. He tosses the bag to her and tells her to follow him, saying there's something they need to get done before the moon disappears, leaving her confused but tagging along anyway. She hesitates, wondering what they could possibly be doing this late at night, while Ronan just smiles with that mischievous look, hinting that whatever's coming next isn't going to be normal at all. Ronan walks under the moonlight with a smug grin, saying this moment might end up as the very first page of his future legend, the greatest history book about himself. The night sky stretches over the forest, stars and moonlight pouring down as the two of them keep moving forward. As they hike along the path, Estelle nervously repeats the name of Phil Leon Academy, realizing they're really heading toward the place that creates both heroes and monsters. Estelle starts panicking, gasping for breath as she asks Ronan if she heard him wrong, because there's no way they're really heading to the academy where all the Empire's elite gather, right? Ronan doesn't even look back and basically tells her she heard just fine, and that asking again is pointless and annoying, which makes her even more flustered. She stammers, asking if he seriously means both of them are going there together, and he casually fires back, asking if she doesn't want to go, forcing her to admit that wanting to go isn't the problem at all. Estelle nervously clutches her clothes and admits that Ronan's different. He's talented in martial arts, so he'll be fine, but she thinks she's useless and can't really do anything. Ronan looks at her seriously as she keeps putting herself down, calling herself cowardly and timid on top of everything else. He cuts in, asking her straight to her face if she really wants to keep living like that, stuck in the same scare version of herself forever. He tells her straight. With the kind of talent she was born with, she's wasting it by letting random bullies walk all over her and deciding her life for her. Ronan folds his arms and keeps going, saying she really does have some dumb sides, always acting cowardly and timid no matter what. He roasts her even harder, calling her a crybaby who breaks down over everything and a loser who's scared of the world. And the words hit so hard, she almost collapses from the emotional damage. But then he softens his tone and says it's fine because all of that can still be changed if she starts doing something about it from now on. He tells her the time that's already passed is gone for good. She can't rewind those years no matter how much she hates them. If she keeps running away and staying the same, one day she'll look back on this moment and regret not taking the chance he's giving her right now. Ronan's eyes dim a bit as he admits he's speaking from experience. He's already lived through that kind of regret himself. We glimpse his past. A bloody battlefield, Ronan standing alone with his sword, exhausted and surrounded by the aftermath of war, clearly wishing he'd made different choices long before things reached that point. Back in the present, he rests a hand on Eselle's shoulder and asks her again if she's changed her mind, giving her one last push to decide whether she'll stay the same or walk forward with him. Eselle's eyes widen and her face goes red as it finally hits her that Ronan has been worrying this much about someone like her. She's overwhelmed, clutching her chest while he calmly tells her he won't force her. It's her life, so if she really wants, she can just turn around and go back. Ronan starts walking away like the conversation's over, but she panics and yells after him, admitting loudly that she wants to change too and doesn't want to stay the way she is anymore. She declares that she'll go to Phil Leon with him, asking Ronan to teach her everything she needs to do to change. Ronan turns back, a bit surprised but satisfied, saying this is the first time she's actually acted brave. Then he tells the new, manly Eselle that it's time to face her first hurdle. As she nervously agrees, Ronan walks ahead with a dark little grin, thinking to himself that everything is unfolding exactly the way he planned. Night falls, and they're now hiding nearby, watching a campfire burning in the distance as Ronan sets up whatever he has in mind. Eselle peeks out, realizing something's off, and her nerves instantly spike as she senses trouble. She stammers, asking Ronan if that really counts as her first hurdle, and he casually confirms it, like sneaking up on whoever's by that fire is the most normal training exercise in the world. Ronan explains that to really drag out her potential, he went and picked the perfect opponent for her to fight. Sitting by the fire is this ripped, terrifying goblin with moonlit vibes all over him. A lunar goblin way stronger than the usual trash mobs. And it's not just any goblin either, it's the leader of the whole group, surrounded by the bodies of its underlings, making it clear this thing is on a totally different level. Ronan cheerfully grabs Eselle's shoulder like he just showed her a fun attraction, asking if this opponent isn't perfect, while she's frozen in horror, wondering how any of this is great. His eyes glow in the moonlight, and that dangerous grin comes back as he leans forward and says it's time to begin, officially kicking off Eselle's first real battle.